Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It's autumn and the temperature is dropping more and more every day. Autumn is a very important season for orchids as both the temperature and daylight hours are constantly changing. At this time, we need to be mindful of which conditions each given orchid requires before it prepares to flower. Take advantage of these guidelines and you can enjoy beautiful blossoms throughout winter and spring. In this video, I will go over several different orchids and their unique requirements, and I hope that this will be helpful to you. If you like this video, please thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with more flower enthusiasts. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please consider to subscribe. We will have more exciting videos in the future. Thank you for your support. Let's start by saying what to avoid in autumn. The first thing is do not repot, do not divide. As the temperatures drop and the sunlight weakens, most orchids will enter a dormant period, and their growth will slow or even stagnate. At this time, if the pot is changed and the media is disturbed, it will become much easier for your plants to get root rot. Under normal circumstances, you should wait for an orchid to bloom and then, after the flowers have faded, change the pot once active growth resumes. This is the ideal time to repot. A possible exception to this rule is if the orchid's leaves are turning yellow and or the pseudobulbs are starting to rot, possibly due to rotten roots. So for a special instance like this, repotting is the best option, but it really should be a last resort at this time of year for most orchids. If you find that the root system of an orchid has overgrown its flower pot, you can remove the entire root system, including some old media, transfer it to a slightly larger flower pot, and fill the media back in around the edges. When carrying out this operation, you need to be careful not to damage the orchid's root system. After waiting for the flowers to bloom, repot and divide the plants in spring. The second point is do not use high nitrogen fertilizers, because fertilizers with more nitrogen content will promote vegetal growth. Orchids can respond to it by sending out more leafy growth or producing a lot of cactus. You can still fertilize fairly regularly. However, it is necessary to use fertilizers which are rich in phosphorus and potassium, as this will help the orchid to bloom. At the beginning of autumn, you can fertilize normally and then gradually reduce the amount of fertilizer. In winter, you may want to stop fertilizing entirely. As autumn goes on, the temperature will decrease while the day length shortens. At this time, you need to reduce the frequency of watering. You can determine the frequency of watering by tracking your local weather report. As the weather becomes colder and the light becomes weaker, you need to give some of your orchids access to more sun. Orchids which like light, including Camellia, some Dendrobium, Vanda, and Schomburgkia, can be placed near south-facing windows to provide sufficient illumination. The color of the orchid's leaves can give you some information as to your plant's response. Darker greens indicate too much shade, whereas too much sun will wash out and burn the leaves. Next, let's talk about the care of various orchids in detail. First of all, let's talk about Dendrobium, Cymbidium, and Coleogyne. Dendrobium is a very diverse genus, and it contains orchids which blossom in both the autumn and the spring. Typically, autumn-blooming dendrobiums bloom from the tip of a pseudobulb, and many of these are severely cold intolerant and should not be left outside. Many of the spring blooming dendrobium, on the other hand, can tolerate lower temperatures, like Dendrobium kenianum, Dendrobium lorigicii, and Dendrobium lindleyi. These need the stimulation of low temperatures in the fall to bloom. We can keep these dendrobium orchids outdoors for about 45 to 50 days. The temperature at night can fall to around 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, even if it drops below 5 Celsius. As long as the dip is brief and there is no frost, it shouldn't cause an issue. Due to the low temperatures encountered during this time, less watering is required. If the medium is too dry and the pseudobulbs start to shrink, you can spray some water on the surface of the leaves and roots of the orchids during the day. Do not water too much. Do not fertilize during this time and provide ample light. We put all of ours outside and give them full sun. If the temperature is projected to drop too sharply at night, we can move them into the garage to avoid frostbite, and then move them out again to bask in the sun during the day. Cymbidium can be managed in much the same way. When you find a flower bud, wait for it to mature and then move the plant indoors to enjoy it after it blooms. If the flower buds have not yet matured and the plant is moved indoors, there is a very good risk of the plant dropping the buds due to shock. This happened to us last year with our Sylvan flower. Before the flowers could open, one of its spikes shriveled and fell. When it comes to phylogeny, this orchid can be managed in the same way as well, but full sun is not necessary. These orchids like a shady environment and can be kept out of the sun. Ours have been out for a while and some already have flower buds. You can take a look. This hybrid has 2 flower buds and this species has 1. Our Dendrobium kenianum also has some flower buds. Other orchids including Oncidium, Cane Dendrobium, Camellia, Vanda, Paphiopallium, Schomburgkia, etc. We have moved indoors and placed them in our sunroom. The lowest temperature that many of these orchids can withstand is around 10 degrees Celsius. Look into the climate of the area where you live. You can decide when you need to move orchids indoors. If the minimum temperature at night is below 10 degrees Celsius, it is best to move the more sensitive orchids indoors. If it is higher than 10 degrees Celsius, then there's no problem with putting most of them outdoors. Here, though, we must put emphasis on the cane dendrobium. The temperature of autumn flowering dendrobium is best maintained at above 15 degrees Celsius. Slightly lower, and there's no problem for a short time. But they are very picky. We had one die on a cool August night last year. In addition to ensuring that the minimum indoor temperature is higher than 10 or 15 degrees Celsius, in order to promote orchid flowering, we also need to ensure that the temperature difference between day and night is around 5 to 10 degrees Celsius. That is, the temperature during the day is 5 to 10 degrees Celsius higher than the temperature at night. To create these kind of conditions, we put a heater in our sunroom. During the day, it heats, and at night, the heater is turned off, and we open the windows during the evening if it won't be very cold. This kind of cool job is conducive to the flowering of most orchids. We arrange our orchids very thoughtfully based on light requirements. For orchids that need more light, such as Camellia, Vanda, Schomburgkia, etc., we put them by the south window to give them sufficient light. Oncidium, Brescia, etc. like medium intensity light, so we place them in the middle of the room. Others, such as our oranges, bulbophyllum, and our Sobralia macrantha, the bamboo orchids that like a darker environment, we put them at the back of the balcony. Because there are too many orchids, we put them in different positions according to their light requirements. The ones that like light are placed by the window. The medium ones are placed in the middle, and those that like a shadier environment are placed at the back. On the balcony, we have a humidifier working 24 hours, 7 days, and the humidity of the balcony is maintained at around 60%. At the same time, we have electric fans to increase the airflow. If the humidity is high and the air movement is poor, it can lead to bacterial or fungal infection. Orchids prefer an environment with high humidity and a good airflow. So for these orchids, as long as we ensure the temperature difference between day and night, enough sunlight, use phosphorus and potassium fertilizers that promote flowering, and the orchid itself has grown up and matured, these varieties of orchids will usually bloom when the above conditions are met. Alright, this is today's video. Hope it is useful to you. If you like it, please thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with more friends. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please consider to subscribe. Thank you for watching and see you next time.